But then we also have to deal with things which are really difficult. So the airship is moored to a mast truck, and that is actually a piece of the aircraft, but it also happens to be a truck.
Right, it's a mobile truck.
Yeah,
so in case you don't know at home, that when you park it or moor it, they have a mobile mast truck that can go wherever it's stopping, which may be for a refueling or in Napa or overnight at Oakland, say. And they don't actually land it to the ground.
We come down to the ground and then we moor the nose of the airship to the mooring mast, and it can swing around that mast all night. That's how it stays out in the open. But that mast is part aircraft, part truck. So who regulates something like that? Is it the Department of Transport, the DMV, or the FAA?
Right.
Actually, the answer is it's a combination of all of them.
Is that right?
And it's been interesting trying to figure out what we have to comply with and how to get registrations and so on.
So now, jumping ahead again, you got all the permits, obviously. You got the location. When did it open its first doors?
So we had to get the airship here from Germany.
Oh, okay.
So the airship had its maiden flight on May 21st this year.
Okay.
Last year, sorry. So the airship had its maiden flight in May of 2007. Okay. And then...
that was locally?
No, that was in Germany.
That's why I'm asking. Okay.
Yeah, so it came out of the hangar where it was built for the first time in Germany at Zeppelin and had the maiden flight. And that was a really emotional moment for all of us. We'd watched the airship being built.
Oh my gosh.
And then after about a month of test flying and proving flights, we couldn't get the airship out here until the end of the summer. And this was due to how we were transporting it. Our airship does not have enough fuel carrying capacity to be able to fly the Atlantic.
Across the Atlantic,
so we had to put the airship on the deck of a dock ship, a very special ship.
Fully assembled?
Yes.
I didn't know if
sail
it was...
across the Atlantic.
See, I thought perhaps, and I was just guessing because it wasn't in the information, I wanted to ask you, that when they actually built it, I didn't know if they assembled it or not, didn't assemble it, brought it here on a ship, assembled it here. But it had already been assembled at the Zeppelin factory.
It did.
Test flown.
Yep.
You got to see that.
We did.
Now but they didn't take it apart and put it on a container ship.
No.
It was on the deck? Tell us about that.
Yeah, so it came in, the ship kind of is like a big U shape.
Okay.
And so the airship went in the middle, and then we stacked extra containers around the side as a windbreak.
Right.
And then the ship crossed the Atlantic.
To Texas, Beaumont, Texas?
It got here at the end of September in 2007, and then we had to fly it from Texas to California.
Wow.
And that was quite a journey.
This is an adventure so far, isn't it? Okay, now, I think I had a female pilot from Texas to California?
It did, Kate Board, and
first
also...
female pilot ever?
She is the first female Zeppelin pilot, and she was flying with Zeppelin's chief pilot, Fritz Gunther.
Is that
and so the pair of them did the transit. It was a real marathon journey.
Came in over the Golden Gate?
We came in on October 25th, yes.
Did you ride in it from there?
I did. I had to...
How exciting.
I had not been on the transit. My husband got to fly on the whole transit from Texas to California because somebody needed to be problem solving on the way.
Sure.
And again, you think you've got every permit and you've got every regulation covered, but then you bring the ship here and people are like, hang on a minute. What about this? What about that?
Well, plus, where do you stop for gas along the way from Texas to here? I mean,
we stopped at a number of airfields, and it's just aviation fuel that we need.
And your mooring truck must have went along the highways.
That's right. They came with us. They came with us, and all of the maintenance trailers and all of the parts, everything came with us. So it was a big entourage on the road.
Wow.
A lot of decisions being made on the way, but the airship, the last stop before the Golden Gate was Salinas.
Yes.
And so on the day we were flying in through the Golden Gate, myself and a few others went down to Salinas that morning very early to get on the ship so that we would be flying in through the Golden Gate.
Yeah, because Salinas has a good airfield, I imagine.
A lot of space.
Yeah, they do a big air show every year there.
Yeah, a lot of space, which is what we tend to need if we're mooring overnight.
Right. Well, I'll tell you, our studios are just maybe a half mile down the road here. And coming out from the parking lot, going into the station, we saw it go over for the first time. And it's absolutely thrilling. I felt like I was about 10 years old.
We joke that we're in the joy business because the people that fly on the airship are just having the best time. They're having so much fun. But everybody that sees it on the ground looks up and smiles.
That's
you can't be grouchy and see a Zeppelin.
Right. That's right.
So we feel that, while we're flying around, kids are getting excited. People are thrilled to see it.
And that's what I was going to say.
Absolutely.
Children are, thrilled by it. It's like storybook. But ladies have to be, by the elegance of it, the gracefulness, have to be enraptured. Men, from a technical aspect, you just look at that and think, okay, what kind of engines is on there, which we're going to talk about next. well, how's that thing up there? How's it flying? And we know it's safe now, where unfortunately with the Hindenburg, different types of gas and things like that. Well, let's go into the technical side of it. They have new engines, which, now you're going to have to correct me on some of this perhaps, but they're called vector engines. Yeah. So is it rudderless now that the propellers can be turned to direct it?
So the way that the airship works, the Zeppelin works, is that inside the outer hull, the gas bag, there is a frame. That's the big difference between a Zeppelin and a blimp. So a blimp is just the big gas bag. That's right. And you can deflate it.
Oh, okay.
You can't do that with the Zeppelin.
Are Goodyear's actually blimps?
They're blimps, yes.
They are blimps.
They don't have a frame inside.
They don't. That's my main question. I wanted to know.
The big difference is that when you have that frame inside, that means you can attach your engines to the frame.
Yes.
Whereas on a blimp, the engines have to be underneath attached to the gondola because that's the only solid bit.
Okay.
So the main difference that means is that if you think about a blimp with the engines underneath, you've got two engines trying to move from underneath, which is not the best space.
Right.
Whereas on the Zeppelin, we have the engines up high on the sides, and we can have engines on the tail.
Right. And there are 3 engines.
There are 3 engines, and those engines can swivel.
Yes.
So if they're in this position, then we can take off and land like a helicopter.
And that's vectoring.
That's right. We can vector and we can go down and up, and then we can go forward and back. We can turn almost on a dime.
Is that
so it has a maneuverability that blimps just don't have.
Right. And that substructure would be aluminum carbon?
It is.
For lightness?
It's carbon fiber and aluminum. There's a lot of composite materials into the airship. And very light.
Helium, like birthday balloons?
Absolutely, yeah. About 8,000 cubic meters of helium, which is a lot of cubic feet.
Right. Now, if they were landing it, and I know they actually moor it so it doesn't touch the ground, does it ever touch ground again?
Oh yeah, no, we touch the ground in order to exchange passengers. And
sorry, I missed that.
We have to get passengers on and off. We have to touch the ground. So the airship has 2 landing gears.
I thought it was a rope ladder.
Not quite. It has 2 landing gears, one on the gondola, one on the tail.
Okay.
And when we come down to exchange passengers, we bring the airship down, and the pilot holds it on the ground using the engines.
Yes.
Then what we do is we put 2 passengers on, take 2 off, 2 on, 2 off, so it stays heavy the whole time. That's right. We call it that's self-loading ballast. Gets on and off.
Okay.
And then once we're done with the passenger exchange, they take the ladder away and the airship goes up again.
So it's actually touching down, but of course it's not. I wondered about the weight on the gondola, but it makes sense now. They're counteracting that weight.
Yeah, I mean the airship is being dynamically controlled on the ground during the passenger exchange.
So what is? I know you go to Napa, San Francisco, Monterey, are those the 3 main
So at
tours?
the moment we fly out of Oakland in order to do the San Francisco tours.
Yes.
We go down to Monterey.
Okay.
We can also fly out towards Half Moon Bay, and we're still looking for the right landing site up in the wine country. There are a couple that we're looking for, but they both need work to enable us to come in. It's not that there isn't enough space for the airship. The problem is the mast truck is a 32-ton truck, and you don't want to drive that on wet ground. It'll sink. So we're looking for a combination of things to make it work, and that's something that we will be working on towards the summer, because we have a lot of interest in flying out of the wine country. It is beautiful, and we'd like to be there.
I stopped at 32-ton truck.
It's big.
I mean, that's like a tank. A tank's maybe 40 tons. So.
Well, the masthead itself is about 20 tons. So
is that how long?
Big
is
hydraulic
that
head.
How long would that be?
Well, that goes up to the top of the airship. So it's about 50, 60 feet by the time you're all the way up there.
Wasn't the Empire State Building for mooring an airship? Am I right?
You know, the architect designed it that way, and they did do a stunt. I can't remember which airship it was. It was either the Graf Zeppelin or the Hindenburg. Came in and hovered to get a picture near it. But, you know, to imagine that working would have required some serious courage on the part of the passengers, because to get on and off the original Zeppelins, there were 2 ways on and off. There was a ladder that went up through the belly. And then the other ladder came out near the nose. So if the airship could come down near the ground, you could get on it from the ground. Otherwise, you had to go up this tall mast and then literally walk across a gangplank that went between the mast and the hatch on the airship. So imagine, if you will, here's the tower of the Empire State Building and the airship, and you have to walk out. You're like 1,000 feet above the ground or whatever, and you'd have to walk up this little gangplank. I think that would have been very hard.
Yes, no one would want to be first even.
Would have been challenging, definitely.
Wow.